What's a sound you miss that you don't hear anymore? Well, I don't miss this sound, but it is terrible that it doesn't happen anymore. When I was a kid, if you drove anywhere, you'd splat bugs against the windshield on highways and country roads. Little bugs, big bugs, sometimes so gross. These days you can drive 20 miles without a bug hitting the windshield, and it does make me very sad that there doesn't seem to be the insects nor the variety around like there used to be. It's sad and scary. I hate it when road crews mow and chop down every wildflower and weed, bush and tree along left for the bugs, birds, creatures. The sound of propeller-driven airlines flying high overhead. When I was very little, I'd hear harp music coming out of the sky when I was outside playing in the yard. There was even an episode of the old Hercules cartoon where one of the characters, Pan, maybe presented a fable that explained why harp music comes from the sky. I thought everyone could hear it. Nope. I think it was my brand new brain trying to make sense of the noises it was hearing. The sound of old prop planes flying over at 25,000 feet. The sound of my stepdad talking to my mom. It's been nearly 2 years since his passing and I miss him a lot. Even if there were times when we didn't see eye to eye on things, he meant well. He was a major influence in my life and I wouldn't be the man I am today without him. He treated my mom so well, and they had been together since 1987 and married 6 years later. Both of them retired in the early 2010s and lived a happy life until cancer took his life in late 2021. Hearing my parents around the house and the morning dishes being put away, the TV turning on to watch the news, breakfast being made, dishes being washed, their voices as they talk to each other and the cat. I never realized how much I liked listening to that before I would go downstairs to start my day until I moved out. Now I'm 1,000 miles from home and don't know if or when I'll have a chance to hear it again. These beautiful birds that used to whistle and sing every morning, and these tall trees I have in my backyard. Heard them for 3 years and never again. It's been about 2 years since I heard them and I want them to come visit me again. I never got to see what they looked like either, so I don't know what type of bird. It was so nice having a cup of coffee on my backyard porch and some toast. Good days, relieved face. I weirdly feel nostalgic for AOL instant messaging sounds and the sound my old PC made when I turned it on, along with the weird music picks that came with this little activity CD that somehow came into my possession. I have no idea how else to describe that last one. I just had a little disc with activities for kids and it came with a bunch of different musical pieces. My cat's little meows. My mom forced me to give her away when I was 13 before we moved house. She was my best friend and I had her since I was little. I will never forgive my mother for that. I remember when she told me I was unable to walk without assistance as I'd torn a muscle in my leg and I wasn't allowed upstairs. My heart was broken and I was sobbing. Used to live on a hill above a train changing yard in a nice Midwestern city. The act of changing yards thing is the trains gently braked and connected, which was an awesome sound. The whole thing also sounded like whales communicating. After decent snowstorms the city sounds were absorbed and the train braking stood out beautifully like a dream. My grandmother calling my name. Well, really, I hear her call my sister's name BC. She always mixed up the names when we visited her alone. Grandparents are like that sometimes. Miss her tremendously, she was my earth mother. If I could have her hold me and swaying hug or just tell her I love her one more time, what I wouldn't give. My mom was a piano teacher, but she also played regularly and well just for the enjoyment of it. She passed away years ago, but I miss hearing her play. I was walking my dog recently and heard someone playing piano in a house in my neighborhood. It brought a smile to my face. I hope they were enjoying it as much as she did. Windows Me boot up sound. The old Cinemax bumper music from the late 90s that would play immediately after a movie ended saying what movie would start next. The Stars feature presentation bumper from 0708. Eurodance music. The sound my daughter made when I would give her a bottle in her first year of life. Like a cross between swallowing and being satiated. It kills me that I have no video of it, but sitting in silence in her room as she drifted to sleep in my arms has always been something I remember fondly. The sound propane makes when it rushes into the hose after hooking up a fresh tank to a forklift. I ran fork trucks of all kinds for about 15 years and miss it. All I drive now is a desk after the slow crawl hour-long commute to work and back, 20 miles away from my house. BBB boring. My grandpa lighting and puffing on his tobacco pipe. I miss the smell too, but I was only around it when he visited, so I didn't have a chance to get sick of it. He died of pneumonia as a result of the smoking when he was 71. I still think about him every day, 3 decades later. My cat Sid used to make the funniest noises. He was part Siamese and super vocal. We put him down July 2022 when he was only 5 years old because he had a heart issue that went fully undetected until it was too advanced. He was my first pet when I moved out of my mom's house. The Wheel of Fortune chime. My grandparents used to watch the show routinely after a day routine. But I remember sitting near them on my Game Boy and the sound down. I'd kind of play along and try to guess the puzzle words along with my grandparents. Good times. Related, I lost some hearing in Iraq 20 years ago. Got hearing aids a month ago. Heard my keys jingle. Forgot that keys jingled. Wasn't a sound I missed or anything. When I heard it I was like, oh yeah! Of course keys jingle! But I hadn't heard it in a while. 80s and 90s rock playing in shops. Walked into Woolies the other day at old school Silverchair playing. I almost fell over, it's so rare to hear. I really just like the music of today, it just sounds like the same chick wailing in every song that comes on. My grandparents bickering. My grandpop died suddenly 3 years ago and my grandmom now has dementia and I would give anything to have them back to their ornery selves. Was lucky enough to have them as a constant for 31 years and they had 72 years together. I've lived next to train tracks all my life growing up from 127. I now 34 live in an area of a new town that I never hear trains. I specifically miss the bass of the engines coming up the tracks that you could feel before seeing the train. So I grew up in a place where it would snow a lot. I would spend a lot of time just sitting in the forest while it snowed. The sound is hard to describe but everything is so muffled that it is this beautiful near silence. I miss that a lot. 6 years ago I went to Japan for 3 weeks and I still miss the sound of the road crossing when it's safe to cross. Those little blips were so nice and gentle compared to the UK's crossings. Also the jingles for each train station. I lived in a house in Missouri that had a heater which would make a sound when it kicked on at night that would trigger a Pavlovian response in me that helped me sleep. It's been 11 years since I heard it and I still think about it. My kitty screaming at me whenever she wanted to have me follow her to show me what she wants. My ex has her. And I miss her more than I've missed them. Skull. She was like a baby to me and spent almost all day every day by my side. Cicadas in the teas above. I've moved to the coast since then. They're still here, but not nearly as present. No one here knows what it's like to walk outside and immediately be completely surrounded by their vibrations. The sound of nothing. There is always noise from cars driving by or beeping their horns or the highway. Or a motorcycle or a loud-ass car in the distance, or a plane overhead, or someone's loud-ass skittit. Wildlife at night. We live in what used to be a small town. Over the last 3 years our town has turned into a city and more people moving here every day. All the land and animals are gone, it's mini New York now. My mom is stirring her morning coffee, the sound of the spoon swirling against her mug is so vivid. I made myself a cup of tea over the weekend and when I stirred it I got the most exquisite nostalgia I've ever felt. In Australia, Christmas beetles. Hardly hear them in the summer now. On a personal level, my darling cat, Ella, who died this year, at 19. My god, could that girl shout! Moom! Moom! Where's my dinner? Where I grew up at my parents' house there were train tracks within a mile, but it was a rural area so you could hear the train sometimes. I don't live near there anymore and no trains near where I am now either. Used to live in a big city, and I really miss the sounds of just cars and traffic at night. My current house gets so quiet at night and I find it difficult to sleep without some sort of white noise. This will be random, but you know those hanging ghost Halloween decorations from the 80s 90s that made that high-low high warbling sound while shaking? I miss that nostalgic Halloween. I grew up a few blocks from a rail yard. As long as I can remember I used to fall asleep to trains chugging and banging around. Never been the same since moving away from that. Always too quiet. The sound of my grandpa's voice. He was my person and my heart still aches for him every single day, even after 15 years. He was a man of few words, but they were always full of love and wisdom. My mom's fucking chewing. Why'd you chew so loud, woman? Give anything to hear it now. For a less depressing one, that TSSSSSS sound buses used to make. They don't seem to make it anymore. The roaring of the train a couple of blocks as it charged through our suburb. Also, the prolonged whoosh of a solo car passing by our house while I was lying in bed, trying to go to sleep. The sound of children playing at dusk. Their voices seemed to carry along the misty evening light and had a faint echo. You could sometimes hear the games they played like Red Rover or Tag. Children laughing and playing. My daughter is 20 now and while she still lives with me when not in school and we are still close I miss her childish giggles and seeing her running around. My parents complimenting me, or even talking to me at all. In their defense I moved to Detroit, even though they wanted me to live in Knoxville for presumably the rest of my life. Rain on a tin roof. Parents' voices. My kids when they were kids both had a cute way of saying elbow when they learned to talk. The sound of night with no traffic in the distance. Laughter. I don't have many people that I trust or have decent relationships with to hear genuine laughter anymore. It's an amazing sound that I miss more than a lot of things. The bass vibration of a massive sound system at small venues and house parties thanks to the Criminal Justice Act for destroying our freedom to party all night long in the UK. My parents dictating their charts into digital voice recorders they had a doctor's office together. I fell asleep to that sound every night as a kid. I miss that so much. Cicadas in the summer. I grew up in East Central Illinois and would go outside on summer nights and just listen to them. I'm in Colorado now and just don't hear any here. I miss the sounds of nightlife while living in a rural area. I especially miss the frogs peeping and all the insects. Now all I hear is the highway outside my apartment. We had to put our cat down last month. I miss his loud purring, and even him meowing way too early in the morning for breakfast. And him meowing way too early for dinner. The sound of water running through the pipe in the upstairs hallway in my childhood home when someone else would take a shower in the morning as I was still half asleep. My best friend singing to herself. We both love singing and her voice is beautiful. We were in the choir together. She moved to Alabama and I haven't seen her in months. The meow and trilling of my last kitty. The little grunt my last dog would make when he was sleepy and you would pick him up. The sound of voices of people I loved.